Okay, if you're just tuning in, we are talking about alignment as it pertains to player characters in the world of Wystramyr for the Wystramyr Core Book. Again, Jim Davis from Leave the Silver. If this is the only video you're watching, or the first of two, or the first of three, or the first of four, or the first of many, um, I will introduce myself each time just in case, and then we'll blow past it. Alignment, player characters. Big deal? Not too big of a deal? Let's find out. Um, and again, our opinions may not reflect your opinions, but this is how we went about designing things for the game. We thought to ourselves, we don't want to restrict the players who say, well, why couldn't I make, and we're going to talk about clerics for a minute to start. I want to make a cleric who is a follower who worships the domain of life. Life is, well, I would think we most agree, life generally represents something that is good. Without it, you're not alive. Undead are not living. Kind of see the differences there. A cleric who worships the domain of life. Would that be a good character or an evil character? Well, why restrict it? Are we saying that evil doesn't want to heal themselves or keep themselves alive? Yeah, their goal may be ultimately to become undead and live, not live necessarily, but be existing forever. But it might not. It might just be, I want to get as much done in life as possible, and then when I'm done, I destroy everything behind me. But I want to be alive as long as possible to do that. So why couldn't I have those powers that the domain of life offers me in order to further my goals and keep me alive as long as possible to do it? Why restrict somebody who feels that way? Let's look at the other side. Undeath. I think we can agree that undeath. So the concept of I want to be a lich one day. I wonder if there's any good undead out there. Well, if we take the idea from the books about not having everything completely set in stone, why not? I'm pretty sure there are creatures out there that are good undead. Um, is that a good thing? Well, a worshiper of somebody who follows life might not think so, but the person who does that says, I'm staying undead, maybe because I'm trying to solve the problem of undead. And this was the only way I could do it. I was onto something. I just needed another 1,000 years or so to solve the problem. This was the only way I could do it. Well, you're violating the law, the natural order of life, but you think you're doing it for a good cause. Does that make you a good person? Does that make you an evil person? We didn't want to limit that kind of a thing. It is what you yourself can justify. And that is how we took the approach when we went at this for player characters. We didn't want to limit anything in that regard. If you could think of it and you could justify it, now, are we going to run into 10 million people in the world who are all lawful, good followers of the undead? But no, we're not. You might run into 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000 kind of. I mean, you never know. It's your world. However you want to do it. It deviates from the norm. And as we can look at, and I'm going to use a real world example for a minute, and I do apologize for this. How many people out there have red hair, blue eyes, are 6 feet 1 inch, weigh between 150, 170 pounds, and are left-handed? Okay. More than one? Less than 20 million, maybe? I don't know. I haven't done the research on it. I don't really care. You get the point. It could be a lot. It could be a lot more than I'm thinking. It might be 6. I really don't know. It's the world that you all are having in there. You could have as many as you want. You can have as few as you want. It's probably not the norm. I'm pretty sure the norm of the followers of Life are people who say, I don't like undead. The follower of people who worship the, nature are people who say, I like nature more than I like you. The people who worship tempest are people who go, I like storms. You get the idea there. People who worship tempest, um, you know, the elements and whatnot are not necessarily going to be followers who go, I don't like the idea of fire or water or so on and so forth. But if you could come up with a reason for somebody who goes, I don't like any of that, and you can find a way to justify it, run with it. Work with your DM. DMs work with your players. It shouldn't be the norm, but then again, there's always the exceptions out there, and that's what makes world interesting. The exceptions out there, as long as they're not so far fetched that people go, really, really, this is what you're doing, okay. You're making the character who likes to cut off the left hand of everybody and glue it to their back. That's really nasty, by the way. And no, we have never run into that player. But now that I've said it, I apologize if you run into a character who wants to make that, a player that makes want to make that character. I'm sorry. Kill them in character creation. It's so much faster. Um, but you get the point. The world is diverse. Let it be diverse. Just don't let it be diverse idea you can ever have. Anyway, you get the point. So when you start working with alignment, and we started working with it, we wanted to be less restrictive than we could think. Um, and we thought about it in terms of clerics, paladins, every adventure, but we started with those. Paladins. Paladins are the embodiment of all of the domains. This paladin goes, I am going to be this way. I am going to be this way. The clerics, I'm going to be embodiment of this. I'm going to be the embodiment of that. So why would we restrict them to being lawful good or lawful this or that? They are the embodiment. If they are the embodiment of the person who's undead, why wouldn't they be? Let's see. I wonder what alignment. And I could look in the book if you wanted to. The alignment for a vampire, the alignment for a lich, the alignment for a ghoul, the alignment for so on. I don't think they're good. So why would the paladin who embodies that or the cleric that embodies that be a good player? Yeah. All right. So when we get to law and chaos, same thing. We didn't want to necessarily say, okay, let's talk about war. Big one. We originally intended to have war split into two avatars, where one was the embodiment of this and one was the embodiment of this, and they were constantly in conflict with one another. And it was really, it didn't work at the end of the day for us. And instead, we opted with just one, the Crusader. The Crusader is not a good, avatar. The Crusader is not an evil avatar. The avatars are so far beyond that kind of concept. They are whatever they want to be. Um, and that's kind of the point. Power is just power. It is what it wants to be. And so people who follow the Crusader will say, "Oh, I'm using this for this reason," and then the clerics who use the avatar of the Crusader to go to the divine domain of war. Well, what alignment would they necessarily be? Um, does it really matter? Who says that war is limited by I have to be the lawful, good, upstanding knight? I have to be the slathering, gibbering, blithering berserker, rampaging and murdering and slaughtering and everything like that, and everything in between. It is everything and everything in between. That's just it. When you look at these concepts, the concepts should fit whatever you feel like will fit. Players, DMs, that is what we're talking about. Make the concept that works for you and makes it work for the game. That is it in a nutshell. That is how alignment will work for our games. We are going to focus more on action and reaction and consequence for our player characters. So when we start talking about player characters, yes, you want to start out with a concept of, and I think it's great when they talk about the Pathfinder one saying, "Hey, this can change over time. We're going to throw a little bit of work towards your DMs. We apologize." Um, you have a chart for your players at the DMs, and you may not want to do this. You may want to stick with your alignment. That works fine. That's great. Do what works for you. What we started looking at was instead of saying, "Oh, you're lawful neutral. You act this way all the time. Well, what happens when you run into this consequence or this action or this type of thing?" Or, you know, hey, how about a little chart that the DM keeps track of based on your actions and how people react to you? So you walk into town, brand new adventure. Here I am. Do you, and let's use real world examples. When you walk into your job, do you walk in and go, "I'm a lawful good person"? No, nobody does that. Do you walk into town as a character and go, "Hi, welcome, tavern keeper. Can you buy me a beer? I'm a lawful good person"? No, nobody does that. Do you walk around and talk to people and say, "Hey, blacksmith, I'd like you to make me a sword. Make sure it's a neutral good sword because I'm a neutral good character"? Nobody does that. That is abstracts of how you act, how you behave, and how people perceive your character. You are brand new walking into a town. You are nothing more than a stranger to these people. How you act determines what they believe of you. If you walk in all uptight and all whatever, you might be the goodest. Wow, that was really bad. You might be one of the best people. You might be a very good person. You might be of the noblest of intentions. If you're a snob, they're going to snub you and be like, "That person's kind of a not so good person." You mean they don't see me as the lawful good paladin that I am? How can that be? Perception. Perception is reality. You go to the next town, the town that you weren't just at 5 weeks ago. What do you think that your reputation precedes you? It may. When you gain a reputation enough that it precedes you, maybe, but at first or second level, sorry, nobody's heard of you. Not like that, at least. "Oh, you saved the town across the way?" "Nope, haven't heard of you." Okay, your actions dictate how people think about you. And unfortunately, we need to keep track of those kinds of things because you may do things that are counter to your alignment. Wow, that's just kind of, I'm not sure if that went. You might do things that are counter to your alignment. If you do, the DM should make note of that. There are going to be adjustment markers on this table for when you do things. Let's say you start out as a lawful good person. And over the course of several incidents, and we're not talking like I go in and talk to the barkeep and I get drunk and I slap the person next to me or I trip the person because it's funny. Or no, we're talking actual relevant actions, things that might have consequence. You get arrested for starting a bar fight. You agree to do a job and you don't fulfill it. You find a treasure and you bring it back, and somebody goes, "Hey, I recognize that necklace. That's that long lost pearls of my grandfather or my grandmother, excuse me, or it could be grandfather. Who cares? Of my relatives." And they go, "Can you prove it?" "Here's pictures of them wearing them. Here's a painting of them." "I'm keeping it." Okay, actions have consequences. That can deviate your alignment, and I believe we should be keeping track of that kind of a thing. What if, hey, I need to go do A, but we run into B, and B will prevent us from doing A. Which one do we do? Do we go save the burning orphanage, or do we go and rescue the princess in the other castle? Which one's more important to us? Ooh, moral dilemmas. Wow. Do we have games that do those anymore? I know I run games that do that, and I like to have fun with that because it gives you a chance to decide which one is more important to you. And it sets up the players to go, "Quick, we've got 2 minutes to decide. Here's the timer. Real world discussion. Go." And in character, they have to decide and they have to live with their decisions. So, did they go save the children in the orphanage? Or did they go save the princess who, oh, by the way, we didn't get the ransom to her in time? Or she decides, nobody liked me. I'm going to go ahead and marry this evil person after all and turn evil myself. Or, oh, I go to the orphanage and it's not really burning down. It was somebody's practical joke. Ha ha ha, fooled you. Any number of things. It can be whatever you want. But actions have consequences. And because of those things, the perception of what the characters are or their actual actions. What if they go, there's no money in it for us to go save that burning building? We'll get back to it. Wow. That I think we can agree that if you see a burning building with people jumping out of the window and you could do something about it, because hey, we're not talking about running into the burning building. If you're a wizard who can go, oh look, the fire's out, or a clerk can go, oh, create water, and you can put the fire out, kind of a thing, and you choose not to, I'd argue that's an evil act. And if you're evil, well then there you go. But if you're a good person and you don't do that, you're a good character, I would argue that probably would notch you down the table a little bit. And we are going to design one that makes it easy to keep track of, but it's not one of those things where, oh, you do 2 or 3 things and wow, you've gone from a good to an evil person. I mean, we're talking major shifts will have to happen for that kind of a thing to happen, to change your alignment that drastically. But you get the idea. We really want to explore that. And if you choose not to use it, so be it. That is just there as an option. But I believe that is what we want to do for characters, because characters are ever evolving in a story. You've read books. I know you've read books. Maybe some of you haven't read. Maybe you've watched movies. I don't know. But you see the quandaries people get into. We're going to put that kind of concept out there for you all to use. So, having said that, who does that? Well, let's talk next about our NPCs and how alignment works with them.